Peace, family. This is your brother, Mr. Holipsism. I'm here to review Star Trek Into Darkness. Now, I've seen both Star Trek Into Darkness and I've seen Fast and Furious 6. And I said in my Fast and Furious 6 review that I gave Fast and Furious 6 the slight edge in terms of fun. But now that I think about it, I think that Star Trek gives you just as much action and just as much fun but with more depth. So I have to resend that, you know. And it's not. And the thing about it is, it's not a knock on Fast and Furious 6 because it's good popcorn, crowd pleasing movie fun. But Star Trek manages to accomplish the same task, the same amount of action, but with more substance and more emotion. And this movie was fantastic. And I mean, these two movies are the best movies of the summer. Iron Man 3 is third. It wasn't a bad movie, but I think it was disappointing. And especially when you put it compared to these movies, it just doesn't measure up. Had it been different and had it been, the actual second phase of the Avengers that I thought it was going to be, then maybe it might have, gone up in a rating. But as of right now, I would say that Star Trek Into Darkness probably is edges out Fast and Furious 6. I have to resend that. I'm sorry. Because now that I think about it, it's like the way that the story was told, the action, um, the way that Abrams captures the interaction between the crew of the Enterprise, the way that he captures the aspects of the relationship between Bones and Jim and Spock and all of the characters and how they interact with each other. That's what made me love the first Star Trek reboot that Abrams did so much. When I saw these characters on the screen, these were the characters from Star Trek. It's like um, Zachary Quinto, the guy who plays Spock, is Spock. You never get the sense that all right, here's this guy trying to play Dr. Spock. The guy is fantastic as Dr. Spock, and you would think that if you're trying to replace that iconic a character, that it would be a very difficult thing to pull off, and Zachary Quinto pulls it off. Chris Pine, definitely, you get the sense that this is Captain Kirk, a young version of Captain Kirk. And what makes this so amazing, what Abrams did with that first reboot, is that you can take all of these characters, these characters when you see them when they're younger, and you can just redo the whole Star Trek franchise. As a matter of fact, with this movie is a retelling of The Wrath of Khan. And when I say retelling, it's like it really exists in a parallel universe. It's like when that whole thing happened in the first movie, when Spock met the older version of himself, it kind of put this crew and this Star Trek generation of those same characters on a parallel universe with everything that happened with the other crew, with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. So I think that that was really interesting the way that they did it. So it's a retelling of this story, and there's going to be some surprises in here. Um, they do it the way that the Wrath of Khan was done, but not quite in the same way. It's going to be flipped on his head a little bit. And I want to give the spoilers, like I gave spoilers in Iron Man and Fast and Furious 6, but I don't feel right giving spoilers for this. I think that you should go and see it. The basic premise is this guy who they don't identify as Khan initially. They identify him as one of the officers of the Federation, goes, rogue, and he commits acts of terror against the Federation. So Kirk was actually in the beginning of the movie had went on a mission, an unauthorized mission, and he was going to be suspended, and the Enterprise was going to be taken away from him. And the guy, the commander who referred him into the academy, went to bat for him and got him to come on his ship as the second in command. Um, So that kind of saved his ass, saved his job. So in the midst of this, the guy attacks the Federation at a meeting where they're planning on how to get this guy. And so Kirk has to go after the guy, and then we find out that the guy that he's going after is actually Khan. And that's all I want to say. I don't want to go any further than that because I want you to enjoy the movie. But it's action packed from beginning to end, just like Fast and Furious was. The only thing is the level of the acting and the storyline was definitely much more deeper, had more depth to it. And that's why I would give it the edge over Fast and Furious 6. It's sort of similar to like the Dark Knight Rises versus the Avengers. Both movies were great, but it's just a question of what your sensibilities are. Like Dark Knight was definitely a more darker and intense movie, more realistic, but the Avengers was just pure fun. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't like Dark Knight was better than the Avengers, or it wasn't like Avengers was better than Dark Knight. They were just apples and oranges, and that's how Fast and Furious 6 and Star Trek Into Darkness is. But strong performances from, and I really love this guy Zachary Quinto's um, interpretation of Spock. I think they couldn't have picked whoever cast this guy should get an award because they couldn't have picked a better Spock. And I mean, just across the board, Carl Urban as Bones McCoy, perfect, perfect. They couldn't have picked a better person to play Bones McCoy. I mean, and you look at him and you don't say, "Oh wow, this is just some guy playing." This is Bones. This is a younger version of Bones McCoy. Every single person. I mean, the only one that I think I'm kind of like, who I think is I don't want to say this because it's going to make it seem as if she's bad. Um, the girl who plays Uhura. Eh, eh. Uhura was bad. In the original, in the original Star Trek, Uhura had a body like that was bananas, and then they go from that to this girl. I don't see her as a young version of Uhura from Star Trek. I'm sorry, that's just me. She's cool. What's the girl? Zoe Saldana. She's cool and everything. She did a perfectly fine job. She's great as an actress. She didn't stand out like a sore thumb. But for me, I just don't see a young Uhura with her. So that's the only one I have a real issue with. But everybody else, from Sulu to Scotty to, everybody just did an excellent job. And I would definitely recommend you going to see this movie. It might be the number one movie for you over Fast and Furious, but I guarantee you this: if you go to see either one of those, you're going to have a great time at the movie. So the summer's gotten off to a good start in terms of just crowd pleasing, action oriented movies, because that's really what it's all about. During the summertime, you want to go to the theater, have a crowd that's into it, and have a good time. And at the end of these movies, both of these movies, you walk away with that good feeling. And that's what gave me the edge for them over Iron Man 3. I did not walk out of Iron Man 3 going, wow, that was such a great experience. I walked out of Iron Man 3 like let down, like disappointed and unsatisfied. And like I said, it's not because it was a bad movie. I just think that it could have been much more fulfilling had it been what they said it was going to be. But I don't want to go into that. I already did. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my review. I hope you go and check Star Trek Into Darkness out. And I will holler at you good people later. Peace.